Okay, so now that we have thought about everything we already know about the person we're researching, we have to look at what our requirements are and what kinds of questions we need to answer with our research. So let's start with the requirements. So first, your Notefact goal, and I'm going to talk to you about what a Notefact actually is 15. That's not very much, okay? So I'll explain in a second. Bear with me. The required number of resources is 3, and they're going to be internet. Now, Mr. Cummings and I have provided a document for you with all of the approved websites for you to use. So all you have to do is click on a link and go to that website for the information. And then glossary words, I'm going to explain a bit here. Those are just important words that are kind of specific to your person or your time frame, right? So all of these leaders were at different times in history. And so anything that was really relevant to that particular leader in terms of what might come up at the trial, okay? And that would need to be defined or explained. So you're looking for four, vocabulary words. Basically, they're vocabulary words, okay? Now, when we research, we are beyond the stage where you just write down everything that you read, okay? And I say this every year, and every year that's what students do, and then they find that they have a lot of information that's not relevant or cannot be used for our trial, okay? So our trial is really specific. There are only so many things that can be included. These are criminal charges being brought, and there's only so many crimes we can charge them with. There's only so many things about the defendant's life that's relevant. And so we want to stay focused on that. So we have some guiding research questions that should help you stay focused on that. They're right here. So what you should be writing down are answers to these questions. What accomplishments did the defendant achieve that benefited his or her civilization? Okay, so, what did Alexander Great do that helped, that was beneficial? What did Julius Caesar do that was beneficial? What did Hannibal do that was beneficial? What did Darius do that was beneficial, right? So you want to be thinking about that. Attila the Hun did things that benefited his people, okay? He was out to help them. So you want to write down things of that nature. You want to write down things that, involved the people who were helped by the defendant's power, right? Like the things that they did and the people they helped. What did they do that harmed people? Well, that'll be easy, right? Honestly, that's going to be the wars and the chaos and the slavery and all the things they did to hurt people because, well, historians love to write about that stuff. So you're going to find a lot about that. Right? And then you want to make sure you're including details about who was harmed, right? Cities. It doesn't have to be individual people. It can be cities or countries or regions, right, that were conquered. You want to make sure to have those specific details because that's going to be important in terms of developing your witnesses, right? And then who were the defendant's allies and friends? Okay, that might include family members. It may not, right? And then who were their enemies? That may include family members, but it may include other people as well. So you're not going to be writing down absolutely everything you read about these people. And you certainly don't want to be writing down historians' opinions about them because that's not going to benefit our trial at all. And you're going to read a lot of that, right? Like people have opinions about these characters. You don't want to write that down. You only want to write down the facts, right? What did they do? Who did it help? Who did it hurt? And be specific. Countries, cities, places, people that are specific, right? That's what you want to be writing down. So, how do we take notes? I know you all think you know how to take notes. I know that. But, the reality is that you don't know how to take notes. So, when you take notes, for research, especially when you're using more than one source and you're going to be using, several websites. You want to make sure that you identify where each piece of information, each fact came from. That's why they call them note facts, right? We're writing down facts. And so you want to make sure that you have identified the source. So at the top of your Notefacts sheet, there is a place for you to list the source and number it. For you, they are pre-numbered. Okay, so it's going to be source 1, source 2, source 3, maybe source 4. So you want to write down the website that you went to. I have a lot of information here. I have the title of the page, the website that was a PBS website, who published it, the date, the fact that it was a website, and the date last published. This is all information we're going to need in order to cite the source. However, because we have a lot of electronic ways to cite sources today, if you just write down PBS, right? If you just write down the name of the website that you went to, that really is enough. And I will count that, right? But you have to write something here that clearly identifies the website that you went to write these notes, okay? And you'll notice that as I go down this sheet, all of the magnifying glasses are numbered the same. They're not numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all numbered 2. Because this is source 2, my second website that I went to. And so all of this information came from this website. That's what we need to know. Down the road, when we're putting it all together and somebody says, well, where did you get that information? This 2 tells me where I got it. I got it from this source. Because you notice these little scissors? We're eventually going to be cutting along all of these lines. Okay? And so once we cut along these lines, we would not know where this information, that he was a soldier, that he was a lawyer and a writer, that he researched the basis of scientific authority, that he died during the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Where did I know this? Where did I get this information? Well, it all came from this particular website, right? 2s are on every single one of these little strips, right? And so I can track it back to where I found it. That is really important to avoid somebody saying, well, you're lying, or it wasn't accurate, or that it was plagiarized, okay? The second thing I want to point out is, because we're going to be cutting out along these lines, you do not want to write on the line. You want to write between the lines. Notice how I've written between them, right? Because if you write on the line and then you go to cut them out, now you have a problem. Okay, so I'm sorry if that's confusing to some people who really feel like they need to write on the dotted lines, but you are not writing on the dotted lines. You are writing between them, because we are going to cut these into strips. Okay, so and you're going to write down the answers to those questions, right? You know, what did he do that benefited people? He was a soldier. He was a lawyer and a writer. He was a researcher. This one, I don't know. I don't know that this would actually be relevant for a trial, right? He was born into a wealthy family. That's relevant, right? His first career was in the Army, so he had some Army buddies, right? Versus the Navy. He had the rank of cavalry officer, and he was a commander. And so, like, all of these things are relevant in terms of developing characters and stories for his life. We know that once he retired, he returned to Rome. So if I was going to create a situation where I needed a slave in his household, I might have that person, like, say I lived in Rome, right? Because we know he returned to Rome. So cities, places, things like that, super important in order to do the trial, okay? And so I'm just trying to help you make sure you write down the things that are going to help you create your witnesses and the witnesses' stories, versus a lot of things that turn out to not be relevant at all, all right? Okay, so again, let's go back now. Now that you know what a note fact is, sorry, it keeps doing that on me because it's PDF. A note fact is, and what a source is. Let's go back and look at our requirements again. Okay, so it was 15 note facts and 3 sources and 4 vocabulary words. So again, a note fact is 1 strip. So between 3 sources, you're going to need 15 strips, 15 pieces of information, okay? Which, as you can see from 1, I got 15, okay? So it's one of those things where you do not have to fill the whole page. Let's do the math. You have 3 sources, 15 note facts. That's 5 per source. Some sources may be more, some sources may be less. But if you're going for anywhere from 3 to 6 little strips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to hit your 15. Let's look at the rubric. Okay, 15 note facts is 5. 10 is 4, and less than 10, but at least 1 is 3. So again, the only way you can get a 0 is to do none. Okay, otherwise you're going to get at least 3. And if you do at least 10, you'll get a 4. And if you hit the 15, you get a 5. Of course, the more you do, the better able you're going to be to create your witnesses and put the trial on. So I'm not saying you should limit yourself to 15. If you want to do more than 15, there is room in your packets to do more. But what I'm saying in terms of effort, right, is you can make the effort to do well on this project, okay? And then if you do 3 different websites, you're going to get your 5. If you do at least 2, you'll get 4. And if you're going to do at least 3, you'll get 1. So what I will tell you is that this trial, this project, it moves forward. There is no extra time per se. I mean, certainly if you have 3 days to do research, 3 days to come up with, 5 facts per day, right? And you will hit your 15 on your 3 sources. Do 1 source a day, 5 facts a day, and you've met your goal, okay? Which is totally doable. If you, for whatever reason, don't hit that goal, we need to move on because the trial is coming June 7th, regardless. Okay, so if you feel like you need extra time, you miss class because of a band lesson, or you miss class for some other reason, then come in during advisement. Stay after school, get the time made up. Because again, the trial happens June 7th. So while we can give you extra time between now and June 7th, we can't give you extra time later.